Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by American retro design expert Dustin Lee and the always talented South African illustrator Lisa Glanz. In this week's episode, we chat about creative burnout. This is a serious issue we covered right at the start of this podcast, and it's something that still impacts all of us today. We share what has been working for us, as well as sharing our ongoing struggles with creative burnout to try and help all of you out listening at home. Let's get into the show. So today we are taking another look at burnout for creatives. I think, guys, was this episode 2, I think? It was early.
Very early days.
We touched on this months ago, and I'm curious to take Dustin's words. I'm curious to see if anything has changed, if we have all matured fantastically, having taken our own wonderful advice, or if we're kind of in the same boat. And I want to look at Lisa. I know you are struggling with this right now, so hopefully we can shed some insight on that. Unfortunately, we're without Ian again. This is becoming a regular fixture to be Ianless, I'm afraid. But
Ian's like the rebel in high school. He's like constantly skipping. He's probably just at home behind his house smoking a cigarette.
Probably.
Yeah, so I'll be holding detention with him on Saturday. He's an upstart. But yeah, we're down Ian, but he will be back next week for sure. If he bothers to show up, that is.
If he can fit us in his busy schedule. What is he doing anyways?
I think he's YouTubing.
Yeah. That's a much cooler thing to be doing than podcasting. He's doing some event with YouTube because he's kind of a big deal. He's outgrown us.
Yeah.
What can I say? So. Not that we're bitter or anything. Bitter and old and dejected. That's like our 3 nicknames right now.
Life is...
Anyway, so yeah, we're dealing today with feeling burnt out, which I know happens to all kinds of people, but I do think it's especially bad for us creative folk because we tend to work awfully hard. We tend to be very, very wrapped up in what we do. And possibly, I can't speak for the rest of you guys, but a bit mentally fragile at points because we get so invested in it all. It can all come crashing down. So, Lisa, it sounds like you're in need of some burnout help. What's going on?
Look, I often feel like this at the end of a year, and the thing is not even at the end of the year yet, but it's getting there. I think I've just had quite a hectic year. But something I never do, which you actually mentioned in the last episode, was I never look back and review the things I've done. And I think that's half my problem because I just keep going because I think I haven't done enough. And I think if I actually sit down and review what I've done, I'll give myself permission to actually slow down. So the other day I sat down with Cliff, my other half, and we discussed all the things I've achieved this year. And it was actually quite a lot. So
of course,
it was a surprise, actually.
Yeah, and that could be everything from revenue to I've released this many products.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's so important to do that. And a lot of companies do it, but not a lot of individuals.
No.
So
I've
for
never
our
done that.
company birthday, we're kind of put out a page and highlight some milestones and stuff. And that's really good for the team to see. But as I say, individuals tend to not do that because I don't know, maybe it feels self-centered or something, which I don't think it is.
Well, don't you know what you've done? I mean, why do you need to be told? I don't know. But I think because I haven't done that, I have this sense of I've got to keep going because there's so much I want to do. There's so many things I want to get done. There's so many different things I want to try and so on and so on. And I think by doing that exercise would probably help me to realize, okay, so I actually have a lot under my belt this year and it's time to take a bit of a break because I don't actually know how to do that, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I'm bad at that. I mean, are you able to just do, like you've had your year of work and I'm taking a 3-week holiday and I'm not going to focus on anything on my work. Can you do that?
I don't. I even know, like, I've come to the belief that I went to some conferences and I would be gone and then I wouldn't be able to do anything. And then the sales would spike. And I realized that whether I'm there or not doesn't necessarily make a difference on how things go in many ways. Like many times I think we think if I'm present in the office, if I put this many hours in every day, if I spend this X amount of days a year doing this, it's somehow making a difference, when there's not a ton of proof in some areas that's the case.
Can I just caveat that by saying you are the lord of passive income, though, where you're not trading time for money? So for the majority of listeners out there who are perhaps freelancers, they are trading their time for money in a more direct capacity.
That's true.
So you've just made all of them incredibly jealous.
Well, I mean, I
still think it's true, though. I still think it hits down to the 80-20 principle type thing. And I know it's been oversaid, but I really do think a lot of the stuff we do, is not as important as we think. And we get burnt out because we feel this obligation to do things that don't matter very much.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of being really busy doing a whole lot of nothing. Well, yes or no.
But they call it busy work.
Yeah.
And everyone's guilty of it.
And the main thing is, it's not like no matter, I'm not doing stuff that's important that it needs to get done. It's how I'm doing it. Because I'm flitting between tasks, I'm just never getting anything done. So I'm always busy, but never really ticking things off. And yeah, so that kind of overwhelm, that the stress of I got to keep going and I got to keep busy and I've got so much to do and hopping from one thing to the next. I mean, that is a burnout waiting to explode, waiting to happen. So I think that's my biggest problem.
And it's true. It's so tied to your personal self. I remember when I worked in a bank, the weekend would come, I would leave. I didn't care. I didn't think about the bank. If someone were to call me, which they didn't, but if they did, I wouldn't be answering it.
Yeah.
You've got a voicemail. We're being robbed. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah. I didn't think about it again until I walked through that door on Monday. And even then, every chance I got, I was not there in my brain.
It's so true. When I was employed, it's the same. I mean, but you work for yourself,
I've never been employed, so that sounds blissful. I've never experienced that.
It's blissful.
But with creative work, it feels like you. So it feels like when it just sits, it's you being lazy, or it's your own personal self being lazy. It's so different.
It does. On the note of what Lisa was saying about busy work, something I am increasingly seeing is that I will spend equal amounts of effort on different jobs, and some jobs will give me literally 50 times the results.
Yeah. That is my problem.
Yeah, I could spend 5 hours on something and it would achieve practically nothing, and spend 5 hours on something else that would be a game changer.
I know.
And I'm trying to really key into developing the self-awareness to focus on the right thing and ignore the other thing.
Other people are probably wondering this too. You both said that. So maybe we could all really quickly just say, what is something that for you has, like you said, 50 times more results? What is something for you that has massive results, and what is something for you that has almost no results that you do?
Well, for me, I mean, I know if I spend, say, 5 hours developing a tutorial about something that somebody keeps asking me, customers keep asking me, how do I do this and this and this? I'd spend literally I don't know how many hours a week manually, typing out a response or explaining to them or whatever. So instead of spending all those hours, emailing them the same response or the same, reply, is rather spend those 5 hours, do the tutorial. But you see, I choose not to, because tutorials are not really something I enjoy doing, but it would save me so much time. So instead, I choose to rather, I don't know, spend all those hours doing the other stuff. It's just insane. It's stupid. I don't know.
But it's human nature.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. I know we've all launched products, and if you get a quieter one, you look at the hours and hours you poured into finessing it, and you might have a sales page and you're getting every tiny design detail perfect, and it's like hours spent antagonizing over that shade of blue and that positioning of that. And then it goes out, and especially if it doesn't do particularly well, you think that literally had no impact. Like that probably didn't even make one sales difference.
No.
Whereas for me, it could be something like fostering a great partnership or investing time into a partner or someone we work with. And that could have way bigger results, but invariably you can push the important job until tomorrow and then tomorrow and then tomorrow and fill your day up with more trivial stuff, which actually has no bearing.
Yep. I've noticed almost without exception, anytime I hit publish and I use publish loosely for anything that you do where you're essentially publishing it, hitting publish almost always is a high leverage activity, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And doing stuff behind the scenes that might never be seen or noticed is oftentimes a very low leverage activity. So as an example, the most simplest example is sending an email or partnering with somebody. Those are both ways where something gets out into the world. That always has a massive effect. Whereas me, picking my belly button for belly button fuzz, thinking, what do you call that belly button picking philosopher guy? Thinking about the best subject line or thinking about the best colors for the design or what the image should be almost never matters as much as I think.
That is so
and
true.
Yet you get sucked into that hole.
Yeah, but that's because we're designers, so it's our job to antagonize over the detail and see the devil in the details. So how do you marry the two? Because we're designers, this is a creative podcast, so for everyone listening, I don't want to say, well, don't worry about the design details, you should just be out there creating new business for yourself.
I think there's a line, obviously, because if I just look at my latest product that I put together, for example, because it's exactly what you just said, Dustin. I mean, I spent hours and hours on the preview images, and a lot of the time I just stop myself, like, whether you choose white or blue or whatever for this background is not going to make any difference. Just make a decision and move on. But I just couldn't. I was just spending hours going round and round in circles. And I think that's when you need to know yourself well enough to actually say, okay, that's enough now, Lisa. You've had your stupid time. Like, make a decision. It may not actually work. It may, whatever. Just move on. Just make a decision. Go.
Well, perfect example. You pulled out your notes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No. So I was just going to say to Tom, yes, we do have to agonize over the details, but sometimes it gets to a point where it's just ludicrous.
It does, although I saw that product you're talking about, and honestly, I kind of wished for a blue background. The white wasn't working for me.
Okay, so you showed us your notebook, though, and you had some illustration work for a client in there, right?
Yeah.
And so getting that right, which it looked like you just nailed how that looked, and I'm guessing that jives with what they wanted, right? So that is legitimate time spent worth it, right? But trying to decide if the animal's fur is straw yellow or wood cedar brown. Only so much time should be invested in that, but it's such an easy way to feel productive, to flip through colors and ask people when it's really not.
Yeah. Lisa, are we allowed to share what it was you were drawing for the client?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so for all the dear listeners, this is what Lisa does for a living outside of selling products. She drew a giraffe that was swimming. It had actual goggles on. And I wouldn't even know where to start imagining that. But obviously it had its very long neck kind of plunging down in the water. And it just made me smile.
Fun. Yeah, that was fun.
So it still boggles my mind that you do that for a job.
I know, it boggles my own mind, don't worry.
It's creating this huge irony for me that we're talking about burnout, and what she's getting burnt out from is drawing giraffes diving into the water.
But ironically, it's not, It's not the drawing, and I think you're gonna get to feel this too, Dustin. It's not the drawing that'll ever burn me out. It's the other stuff that goes with business and whatever.
Oh, for sure. It's like okay, so I have the passive income for designer site, right? And I always ask people, what is the thing you're struggling with? And everyone always uses the same metaphor. They say, I'm trying to get out of the rat race. I'm trying to get off the treadmill of constantly looking for jobs. And the funny thing is I'm pretty much off that. But even in a business where it tends to sustain itself, I still find myself, it's almost like some sick, twisted part of me wants to go back to the treadmill and start running on it.
Oh my goodness. It's like we enjoy the self-torture of some reason.
Just like
I don't know.
Couple more rotations of like the hamster wheel, and then like it'll all be better.
I know what you mean, and I think particularly if you're self-employed, which a lot of the listeners are. Did you guys ever see the awesome music video by OK Go, where they were jumping around on the treadmills?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I love
so
that video.
For me, the concept of the rat race is being on a solitary treadmill running, and being self-employed feels like you've got 8 treadmills pulling your limbs in all different directions. And so you're kind of on multiple treadmills. So it's not even like escaping the rat race. It's more making it more complex and scary.
That's true.
and then you feel ashamed and irresponsible, and like it's not even that. It's almost like you feel like, for me at least, I feel like I need to stay on this to continue to further push myself into the future for the security of my family. But I'm like, I could do that forever. I could do that till I was on my deathbed trying to like be like, I could get next generation, must get the next generation secured up to 10 years in. Like it just keeps going. At some point, you just got to be like, the whole point is so we can have some time to do all the awesomely cool stuff. My little girls want to go play with like these Shopkins downstairs. And when I do, it's awesome. We just like fly around with these Shopkins. By the way, Shopkins are like little tiny like cakes and cupcakes and things with like little eyes and hands that are like super small miniatures. Man, that's what life's about. It's not about spending extra time working on, that text document.
Oh, that's so true.
I literally should hire someone just to like hit me every so often. Like, Lisa's like, I'll take the job.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think that's half my problem. This is going to sound extremely morbid, but I just think there's so much. You only have so many days alive, and you need to like utilize them to their fullest. And because I started my illustration career so late in my career, I feel like I don't want to waste any time, and that pressure that I put on myself. Like if I'm not working, if I'm not illustrating, if I'm not learning something new or bettering something, there's guilt, and that's insane because it's just there's too much self-pressure. I mean, that's where it comes from. The burnout feeling is self-pressure. I mean, it's all self-inflicted. So you
not to be too psychological, but isn't it sick? Because like the reason we feel that way is because we feel like if we do a certain amount, somehow we're good enough, and if we don't, we're not worthy people. It's so messed up.
It is messed up. And well, for me, it's more a case of, I feel like I'm not valuing, maybe that's the thing. I'm not valuing sitting on a lounger, reading a magazine to get a bit of downtime as the same as bettering my illustration skill. And I think there is value in the relaxation time. It makes you human, Right. So I think that's maybe where things are skewed for me, because I still think the other side, the bettering my business or growing this or doing that has far more value at the moment in my life than the other stuff, which I don't think is right.
No. Yeah. And whenever I talk to you, you're how I used to be, where it sounds like you work 7 days a week.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, honestly, like even 6, like have Sundays off and the world will not implode. You should really try. And I promise you that's not going to suddenly see your whole career go backwards or your skills diminish. By the way, I've come somewhat prepared because by chance yesterday I saw a very simple but very applicable quote on my Instagram, which simply said, "Busy is a choice."
It is.
It is.
100%.
And I read that and I just went, "That's so simple, but it's so true."
Yeah, it's a choice that has tremendous benefits, like emotionally.
Yeah. And
that are sick benefits.
It's really freeing because we don't have bosses that stood breathing down our necks, screaming at us to do more work. And if you are self-employed and that's the case, that's probably not okay either. But it's just literally you could choose tomorrow not to work or to go to 6 days a week later.
Mean,
and
I'm okay
not only
financially
you could,
to
but
do
you
that,
should.
But
you should.
What's wrong with me?
So here's something interesting, and it's hard to see in my own self, but I notice in others. So I saw someone's work the other day that I really like, and they had posted a piece that said, it was basically alluding to the fact that they constantly were in front of the rectangular glowing screen that is their computer, right? Like they're like, always here at this thing. I need to like step away. And it was just like talking about the sickness of it. And then I have another brilliant designer that I know named Chris De Lorenzo, and he did the mascot for Retro Supply, for instance. Brilliant guy. Amazing work. Has done a lot of very, it doesn't matter. It's big, awesome work. Anyways, like you'll write him and he's gone. And you like go look on his Instagram or something. And he's like, I think it's called slacklining, where you put you tie a rope to two trees and then you walk across it.
Oh, wow,
or he's like hiking up in a mountain, or I don't know, maybe he's getting blasted at a bar in the middle of the day. I don't know what he does. But the thing is that like that person, when I see his work, I think that work has life in it. That work has a person who's been living in it. The person whose head has been in the screen for endless months. You're like, wait, how could there be any true life in it? And that sounds dramatic and
it's
cold,
true, though.
But I do like. It's weird. I think if we can start looking at it like, when I am not here, I am making my stuff better. When I am here.
Yeah, so it's not as black and white as working is good, downtime is bad.
Right.
No.
It's really not. And I think that's a great way of putting it, because I could never justify the downtime because I thought the only benefit was rest and recuperation. But I actually think, as you just so articulately put, it's injecting what you discover in that downtime into your work.
Right.
And that's very seldom thought of by people, I think.
Like if I saw a video, if every time you saw a piece of someone's work, you got to see the video of them in the 24 hours leading up to it, and you saw this miserable person like just like eating like drinking Mountain Dews and eating Twinkies like for 24 hours leading up to this amazing piece. Yeah. And then you saw another person like exploring nature, I don't know, like collecting rocks or doing some sort of interesting thing, and then spending 3 hours drawing, like listening to music. I'd be like, even if the other piece isn't quite as good, it is better because at least it's human.
That's
not Twinkie Mountain Dew zombie.
No, I agree with all of that, and I must say that I guess the reason why I've survived, this sounds dramatic, is because I do have quite a sort of daily routine that, I walk my dog twice a day. So I do like do all that stuff. And my life with Cliff, it's, we do a lot of stuff together. But where I fall short is that as I said, I don't choose the downtime when I should. I'd rather, because I love what I do so much, I'd much rather come and design a pattern or do a new drawing, which I'm not so sure if that's always the right thing to do.
What I find is when I have even a few days off, like I was sick last week, which was really annoying. And after normally 3 or 4 days, I'm like itching to get back to work. And that's normally a good sign. And I think when you do impose that on yourself, it doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So it doesn't need to be a 2-week vacation. It could literally be giving yourself a day off or half a day off or 3 days off or whatever. And the tremendous benefit of that is that you're so fired up to hit the ground running
Oh,
when you get
yeah.
back to work. You
That's
actually
so
almost
true.
make up for the lost time.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Do you guys ever feel like it's like you're like at a party and this is how it feels to me. It's like I'm the host of a party and a lot of people showed up. And if I like go and like take a run to the store to get ice and I'm gone too long, when I come back, everyone will be gone and they'll never return. So
I thought you were going to say they will have destroyed your house.
Well, destroyed your house and then left.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I think that's the fear is like I'll think, okay, I'm going to do 2 days where I completely unplug. But then I think, what if everyone leaves? Everyone thinks that the house is empty and they all leave
Which
and never
is
come
crazy.
back again.
Yeah.
It is crazy, but I literally think it.
I know.
That would be thinking like, oh, if I don't talk to my family in 2 weeks, they'll never talk to me again.
Yeah.
It's like, guess
I
what?
know.
They're still going to be there because they care about you.
I've read quite a lot of blogs from really, really well-known illustrators that are, I mean, they've done books and that's the next thing. And they all suffer from this. Every single one of them. They have that fear. And both of them, the two that I follow a lot, they both actually literally had burnout because of exactly that. They admitted that they couldn't keep up. They couldn't keep up with this ever-growing like sensation of if I just take 2 days off, if I don't post on Instagram today, then I'm gonna have no one following me or no one's, that's the next thing. It's just so much pressure that I don't know.
It is a sickness. It
It is a sickness.
actually the worst feeling. Having gone through this, I mean, I'd imagine not everyone listening to this episode may have caught the second episode we did, so I've kind of retread old ground a little bit here. But when I was starting Design Cuts, as you guys know, it was ridiculous hours, like 18 hours a day, no let up, just barely any sleep, didn't watch TV for a year at all, just no downtime, because the focus was so extreme. And what started happening was I would get burnt out like once every 6 months. And then suddenly I was getting burnt out every 3 months. And then it was every month. And before I knew it, it was every week. And then suddenly I was just burnt out. And that was my constant state of not being able to function. And I think I've felt about as burnt out as a person can feel on the back of that, where it was just weeks and weeks and weeks of not letting up and feeling terrible.
And you actually, you got quite ill for a while. I don't know if it was all because of that, but
yeah, I put myself in hospital. So
yeah. Do you feel like a lot of that was because of the way you were working?
Yeah, I really do. And it's been linked to stress and all kinds of stuff. So that is kind of the extreme, but you don't want to be there. And so I think it's important to look for the warning signs. And everyone will have to push through occasionally, and they might get burnt out occasionally, and that is kind of part and parcel of doing your own thing. But if you notice it's cyclical and those cycles are getting more and more frequent, and another warning sign is when people around you start commenting a lot, saying that's not sustainable, you can't do that, and you're kind of dismissing it out of hand and saying, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to keep on in my ways. Sounding familiar, Lisa?
Yes.
Well, and the horrible thing is it's a feedback loop. So you think I'm going to get to X destination and then I can take a breather. But what happens is the more work you put in, the more every time you want to stop, you feel like, but I've put so much work into this, I can't let it go. And like that would be so much that I gave up. So it creates this feedback loop of I need to keep working to sustain what I've already done. And the more you keep working to sustain it, the more you've sustained and the more you need to keep going. And it's sick. Something that I think just goes to show it's not the truth is someone I absolutely love, Paul Jarvis. You can Google him, you find him real easy. He's a web developer and writer, and he takes I don't know if he calls it a sabbatical or just like a month or maybe a month and a half off every year. He's just like, he writes a newsletter weekly, religiously every single week, week in and week out. And then he's like, I'm going to be gone for this month or this 2 months or whatever it is. And he's just gone. You don't hear from him. Nothing comes out. There's no autoresponders. There's no emails. And he comes back and starts it again, and everyone's still there. And I think people, I look forward to it. I don't stop reading it at all. So it just goes to show
And there's
It's
always
sly.
excuses, because I look at probably you the most, Lisa, and think that's probably most achievable for you.
Yeah.
Because you perhaps don't have the team there and so on.
Mm.
Maybe you look at me and think, well, actually, it's more doable for me because I have the support of the team. But
Yeah.
my point is, there's always going to be reasons you tell yourself you can't do that kind of thing.
Of course.
And we're not talking 2 months off here. I'm talking give yourself a Sunday. Like, that's not crazy.
No, I agree. I hear you. And it's what you said. It's like you keep saying, well, when I finish this product, I'll take a week off, and you don't, because then you go, okay, now that I don't have anything to do, now I can do the stuff that I was been putting off and figure out the SEO on my website, and maybe I'll update this, and it just never stops, you know. But yeah, it is it's a priority for mine next year. When I do find somebody to help me, I'm going to take some time off.
You know what I'm going to try to do is, like, perhaps the way to think about it is to think of it as work, to trick your brain. Like I think I might start telling myself I'm not going to work today because it's like kind of like doing maintenance on the car. Like, I'm going to take myself out to a good meal with my wife. I'm going to go browse the bookstore. And the reason I'm doing it is because, like you said, Tom, like when you take that time off, it freshens your mind. It's all maintenance. Like, it's actually work. I'm going to tell myself, like, to trick it.
I'm going to try that too, Dustin.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're doing
do.
enjoyable things, but you're saying it's simply like making the race car run better.
Okay.
What I love is I feel hopefully, in fact, I know the listeners relate to this, because when we talked about it before, we got a ton of comments. I feel like this would be such an alien conversation for the majority of people, though. They'd be listening and be like, how lame are you guys that you have to like trick yourself into watching TV or whatever?
It is.
But don't you feel like a lot of listeners are like this too?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Completely. Like, we're not alone. No, I mean like all the normal people who aren't designers.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I love that. I'm going to try that.
You should.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So some maintenance this Sunday. You can tell I'm pushing for Sunday.
Yeah.
Just be like, I'm going to be working extra hard this Sunday by going and getting some crepes for breakfast. And
Exactly.
Oh, I could go for that, actually.
I love
In fact,
crepes.
yeah, I'm getting some this weekend. You just sold that to me.
Sounds good.
Dude, aren't crepes so great on a totally random note?
Yes, and not to detour too much, but do you have them the English way in America at all, like lemon and sugar?
Oh, that's my favorite way to have them. I mean, we do them a lot of ways, but like lemon, butter, and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Butter
oh man,
well.
I might go get some after this. Whoever invented crepes, thank you. Is there anything more comforting than crepes? Maybe that wine in Lisa's hand right now, but other than that, crepes.
This is getting close to our episode of swapping recipes.
Yeah, we did talk about this.
Slowly morphs into a cooking show.
The Honest Designers Cooking Show. I could see it. So yeah, for all the dear listeners, go buy crepes if you're feeling burned out. I think that's the clear front runner here. So any other thoughts here? Because I do think it's a very prevalent, if not the most prevalent issue. Because I think this is more emotive, right? Out of everything we talk about, a lot of the stuff that people really seem to resonate with is finding their own style, standing out, some of the business stuff. But nothing seems to connect on such an emotive level as feeling burnt out and terrible.
I think it has a lot to do with, I think deep down in all of us, we know it's self-inflicted. And I think that's what irks us the most. We struggle with that fact that why are we torturing ourselves? You know, it's probably, a lot of the other stuff is, finding your own style. That's like a process. And, all the other things are something that maybe you can't necessarily control so much. But quite honestly, as you said, being busy is a choice. So,
what sucks? Losing the enjoyment. Because the thing we love the most is the creating and the work. But when you start to lose that and it becomes this poisonous thing, that's really depressing. And something which kind of brings it back in a positive way for me is when we do have the downtime, but in a work capacity. So, for example, we've got our Christmas party lined up really soon. It's like start of December.
Oh, I wasn't invited.
Yeah, thanks for
Sorry.
inviting me.
Sorry, guys. I'll get you on. I'll get you on the screen. You can remote into London.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, every year that happens, or if we do a company lunch or something, you're technically still at a work thing. People are even talking about work, but everyone's kind of looking around, and it's that reflective thing we talked about, where it's like, look at what we've accomplished, and look at how great everything is, and it's really motivating. And it's just taking that moment to actually pause and get off that treadmill that we talked about.
So true.
And it completely shifts my mindset every single time about work. And I look around and I go, you know what? It is all right. And it's the complete opposite to those dark, lonely moments where you are burnt out and stressed and feel like you can't escape the self-inflicted torture. It's the complete opposite of that. So if you can ever take that step back from the whole thing and just kind of come up for air and look around, I highly advise it.
A couple of years ago, I had massively bad panic attacks, like so much so where I couldn't get out of bed for a couple of weeks. And I got a piece of advice that stuck with me forever, or since then, that is so valuable when I remember it. And that is, when you're making a decision about how much you're going to work, or if you should keep working on that project where it's been frustrating and you've already spent, it's 1:00 in the morning, you really should go to bed, but the client needs it. The advice I got was, think about what you would tell your best friend as a piece of advice if they were in that situation. And that's probably the advice you should take for your own self. And whenever I follow that, it tends to be very helpful.
Yeah, because then you're removing your own stuff and you're actually being honest to a friend.
Right, you're treating yourself like, isn't it crazy? We don't even treat ourselves like we would treat a good friend.
No.
We treat ourselves like some sort of misbehaving employee.
I know. Oh, it's great.
It's terrible. I saw a thing recently about this where I think it was talking about body issues, and there was a diagram of a woman saying like horrible stuff to herself, and it's like you would never dream of saying that to anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's the same principle. And my counter to that is that I've tried to impose something similar on myself, Dustin, and it's easier said than done. So do you find any ways where that's like you've been able to stick to that?
Well, to get personal, I went to a therapist for like a year and had someone constantly reminding me to doing that and checking in with me and having me have a chart where I would mark down, I would do that exercise daily. So I had it's like everything, it came down to accountability. Somebody was reminding me to do this. And then after a while, it starts to become, you just naturally fall into asking yourself that question.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That is great. And I think it's pretty big statistic, like 1 out of 4 people are currently experiencing mental health issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so common. And given the pressure designers put themselves under, there's got to be a good number of our listenership. And I think we've all experienced some level of that ourselves.
Oh, yeah. For years, I had panic attacks, full blown. Like,
yeah. We're talking like ER, like bad panic attacks.
Like, I mean, I'd say to Cliff, I think you need to take me to hospital because I think I'm having a heart attack.
Yes, that's exactly what I had.
I didn't know that about you, Lisa.
Oh, yeah. They were really, really bad. I mean, I wouldn't be able to walk into any environment without making sure I knew where the exit was.
Was this doing what you're doing now or before? It wasn't I don't
before.
know what color to give the bunny's hat.
No.
It was before that.
This was before, and it was part of my whole journey of getting to where I am today.
Me too.
Which is why it forced me to get to where I am today. I knew I had to get where I am today, should I say. Go.
I was just going to say, I can say about this, and maybe you can confirm this, Lisa. So doing those things, and you don't have to have, bad panic attacks or anything like that to do this. Asking yourself questions like, how would I treat a friend under this condition, can make big differences. So I started doing that regularly, and I went from having panic attacks every couple months and having to go, say, to a hospital or something, to I haven't had a panic attack in a couple of years. And I know
Nice,
it's directly because my mind has been kind of reset to change how
completely.
I handle things.
Mhm.
Do I work too much still? Yeah, but like I think I talk to myself in a different way.
We've said this on the show. Even when we started the show, you were way more stressed. Like the initial mastermind therapy sessions we had before we started recording and putting it out there, you were like constantly bringing all this anxiety, and by the sound of it, that was even improved on where it was 2 years ago. So that's amazing. Like now you're like this calm, philosophical dude who jumps on the call.
I'm definitely calmer for sure. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
So okay, you're calmer. I am definitely calmer as well. I feel way happier in day-to-day life and just more balanced. Lisa. How you doing?
I don't have panic attacks anymore, thank goodness. That hasn't happened in years.
That's great.
So, but and I'm so much happier with my life. I love my life. It's just that.
Yeah, you seem very happy-go-lucky, but are you still quite stressed by the sound of it? Like, what's the burnout about right
My
now?
problem is because as I said before, because I love what I do so much, and I don't value doing nothing the same way as I do drawing something or creating something, then I actually spend too much time doing that and not finding balance. And because of that, I'm so frightened of eventually getting burnout to the point where I don't want to do this anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ruin what I have. I think that's,
I think a continuous theme of the show is a lot of people look up to you guys with what you've achieved professionally, but the classic thing, they only see the outer results.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully hearing this is a bit of a revelation when they're like, what? Like, you know, Lisa and Dustin get the stuff I'm going through as well. It's it's so ubiquitous, I think.
We could
all
do a
of this
whole
kind of thing.
episode on panic attacks. A lot of material.
Yeah, we could do a live call-in with the listeners or something. Everyone bring your brown paper bags.
Yeah.
It's terrible though. I think I've only had one really bad one in my life.
Yeah.
So to go through that every couple of months is terrible.
Oh gosh, mine were daily, but yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, I was really bad. But
no way.
Yeah, as you said, Dustin, eventually, you need help. You need to seek help. So
I just got to a point where I was like, I literally cannot survive like this. Like I won't make it.
I can't function the way I am, and I have to change it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but
I literally started to think I won't make it. I need someone's going to have to intervene.
Yeah. But mine was usually related to fear of putting myself out there. So I've come a long way.
And I was going to say, and now you're co-hosting a successful podcast, which is really putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Well, the funny part is I think as a general rule, the people that tend to have those things, same with like work, right? Like with doing creative work, like they say people that are actually excelling at it tend to have more doubts than the people that are not excelling at it tend to be overly confident.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's
like
true.
someone sweet like Lisa has panic attacks about people not loving her, and as a result, she is constantly sweet and shouldn't even have to worry about it. But that's why she doesn't worry about it. It's like this weird, I don't even know.
I know. Weird business.
It's all a facade. She's not that sweet. This is Lisa who offered to punch you in the face earlier.
Okay, so I know we need to go, but don't you think it's interesting, like as one person, well, we've all had panic attacks. So as one person with panic attack to another person, like, don't you think it's interesting that like you felt that chaos, yet you surround yourself with woodland creatures and
that's probably
soothing
why.
things. It's like this compensating thing to create equilibrium in your psyche or something.
Yeah, it's probably a huge drive to create a really magical world that's nice to be in, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Seriously.
We're going James Blunt on you. So yeah, I mean, without this turning into a complete therapy session, but it's what we're here to talk about, creative burnout. First
hugs,
step
everybody
is...
hugs.
Yeah, group hug for the listeners. Step one is tuning into it. So the awareness of what is actually happening to you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is getting more often, more frequent. Oh, this is getting bad. This is not healthy, etc. And then actually listening to that instead of burying the thought deep down, like just actually responding to that, listening to the people around you, listening to yourself, and actually making a change and breaking the
taking
habit.
action.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But we're well worth figuring out how you're going to.
Yeah. And as always, drop us a line, either honestdesigners.com, via any of our social media feeds. Drop us a line if you're struggling with this stuff, because we've been there too. We like to try and help in some capacity, and even just sharing it, I think, can be helpful.
Yeah.
So hit us up.
That's true.
Cool. Well,
Adios, amigos.
yeah. Well
Adios,
said.
amigos.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it resonated and showed you how creative burnout is something that literally every single creative goes through at some stage. However, it's not insurmountable, and you don't have to accept feeling stressed out all the time. As always, you can find full show notes for this episode over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean so much to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes. We would love to hear your thoughts about the show, and this is one of the best ways for your fellow designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.